ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and I want to talk about something that's been bugging me lately. Now, I realize that this might not affect the vast majority of you, but I still feel like it's worth mentioning. So take this as maybe just general information, but I'm also making this video as a sort of open letter to Blizzard. Blizzard, please allow us to set either a server location preference in the game, or a player language preference. Hopefully this is something that gets added in the near future, because it's affecting the game more than it might initially appear. So of course the main topic is the problem with language barriers. I'm sure pretty much all of you are aware that the Battle.net launcher allows you to choose the server region that you want to connect to before launching the game, and this goes for pretty much all of the games that are run through the same launcher. The problem with this is that, at least when it comes to Overwatch, the matchmaking system attempts to match you up only on servers that are within certain thresholds, and one of those thresholds is latency, also known as ping. Obviously, there are reasons for this. You wouldn't want to connect somewhere that you have bad latency issues on, since that could potentially ruin the game experience for you. However, what it doesn't take into account is something that I guess might be unique to the Asian region, and that is the significant number of different languages spoken here. Just in Southeast Asia alone, there are an estimated 11 main languages spoken, and several of these are the primary languages of those countries, so it's not uncommon to encounter someone, even online, that only speaks that language. But you might be thinking, well, surely if I just change my server at launch from Asia to Americas, that should solve the problem, right? But it doesn't, and I have already changed the server preferences only to never ever see an effect of it. Because what the game then does is it takes my location into account and puts me in a server located in Southeast Asia anyway. So unless I'm grouped up with 2 or more people from the US, for example, I won't end up being matched with people from there at all. And I've tested this on multiple occasions and had the same results. My ping would jump up to just about 200 or so if I was playing with people in the US or Canada. But it would be just 4 or 5 milliseconds when I was playing on my own. And based on that ping time of like 5 milliseconds, there aren't too many places the server could be other than in Singapore where I am. And that's a very bad system. The main reason I don't simply set my region to Asia in the first place is because not only do I want to play with friends who are in other countries, but I would rather play with a ping of 200 milliseconds than with people I can't communicate with. Here's an example of what happened earlier today that kind of inspired this video. Now, I've recently set up a second account to play Overwatch on, and I was trying the account out and trying to level up a little bit, and I encountered a player who was more than likely playing the game for the first time. So this player had picked Torbjorn, but wasn't quite sure of what they were doing. They didn't realize that they could repair their turret or upgrade it at all, and so that's when somebody tried to type instructions to them in chat. However, it was to no avail because the player in question more than likely didn't even understand the instructions. So they continued placing turrets in odd locations and then running off to do something else. Now, I don't blame this player for not knowing what to do. After all, we've all been new to a game at some point or another. But the problem was that, because of the diverse mix of people that are in the region, the possibility that this person saw the instructions and simply couldn't read them because they were in English cannot be discounted at all. But this, of course, is an incident that happened at very low levels and in quick play. But what happens when the language barrier is present in competitive as well? Having played on many Asian and Southeast Asian servers for various games in the past, I know that text chat is the preferred communication medium over voice. People are generally more reluctant to get into voice chat unless they're with a group of friends or something like that. And to compound the problem with lack of voice communication, we then have this issue with some people who type in their native language, and you have a 50-50 chance of them communicating back with you in the same language as you. Now, I'm not saying English is the main language or even should be the main language, but what I am saying is that I chose a region preference for the exact reason of avoiding language barriers, only to find myself being put back there again. Which is why I'm asking for Blizzard to provide the option for setting language preferences for matchmaking, or at least some option that will allow players to have more control over their matchmaking filtering. Now, this is actually something that a lot of other games already have. Instead of automatic matchmaking, games like Battlefield in the past had things like server browsers where you were able to just manually select a server based on location. And of course, if you chose, for example, a server in Japan, you would likely end up meeting Japanese-speaking players, and that's perfectly normal. After all, you are aware that the server is in that location and you're picking that one. That's perfectly your choice. So when you do see this happening in Overwatch and you have no control of it because it's automatic matchmaking, then we need ways of filtering this, and this could extend beyond language to other things such as ping thresholds or even ranking thresholds if we want to go that far. But at least some form of control over matchmaking is definitely required. Now, I can't comment on whether or not this language issue happens in other regions as well. I'd imagine that maybe it happens in Europe as well. But I do know that since Singapore itself is quite small, players here will inevitably find themselves just thrown into the melting pot with everyone else in the entire region, regardless of what server region they choose. So what essentially ends up happening is then, if we're just talking about Southeast Asia alone, then you're going to have those 11 possible languages, and in my experience it extends much further than that, because I've had players from Korea connecting to the same server as well. So that's just an example of my own experience and what is really happening and how far this sort of communication problem really goes. But let me know what you guys think. Are language barriers really a big deal? And is there a way to easily get around them in games? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panzer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.